So you're prepping for your FAA written exams and you're looking around trying to figure out which online ground school is going to be best for you. You get onto YouTube and search around and see people promoting the one school that they went to and got great scores, which is all well and good, but you're still unsure on which one's actually going to be the best for you. Well, today you're in luck. We're going to break down 3 of the most popular online ground schools to figure out which one is the best for you. We're going to take a look at King's Ground Schools, Sportys Plus, and Sheppard Air. We're going to break these down into 5 different categories, including the content quality, teaching methods, student resources, the user interface, and of course cost. I've used all 3 of these schools in some capacity, so I do have some background and can give you my personal opinion on each one of these. I'm going to tell you which ones that I actually prefer, but more importantly, I'm going to help you decide on which one's the best for you and your learning style. So let's not wait anymore. Let's jump onto the computer. So here you can see all the rankings that I've kind of put in for each one of the schools on those 5 different topics that I told you we'd discuss. Before I dive into them and kind of give you my opinion, just remember it is my opinion. Now, once we get done discussing all 5 of these, as you can tell up here at the top, I have all 3 schools pulled up and we'll take a closer look at each one of them and you can make some of these decisions on your own. First, let's talk about content quality. So I have Sportys ranked as number 1 as far as their content quality. So when it comes to content quality, what I mean is kind of the production value of it and how much I think that you're actually going to be able to get out of it in maybe one sitting. So the reason why I have Sportys ranked number 1, and you'll be able to see this kind of reoccur a little bit more as we go through, is that it's really recently done. You can tell that they've brought in some other experts and things like that, and it's not just people from Sportys that's giving you this content. They have a meteorologist that comes in and does some things on weather, right? I use Sportys to do my private pilot's license. I've used King's to do my instrument rating, as well as my commercial, and a couple of other smaller tests as well. And for Sheppard's, I've just gone through their trial stuff and used their method to kind of get through the one that they've had on trial. I also have a friend who has used Sheppard's in conjunction with King's and really likes Sheppard's test bank a lot. So that's kind of my background on all 3 of these. With Sportys, I would say in that personal one, the content quality, why I ranked it number 1, is really just because you've got very new recordings. You can tell they're much newer than the ones that you get in King's. They feel a little bit more immersive because they're more on site. King's has more of like a green screen that they do in the background, and then Sheppard's doesn't have any videos at all. So you really don't get any content, any visual content outside of just words. So if you're looking for videos, right, I would say that's why Sheppard's is ranked at the bottom here as far as content quality, because you're only getting test bank questions, where in Sportys and in King's you're getting videos as well as test bank questions. And so it's a little bit more of an immersive experience in my opinion. So that's why I ranked Sportys number 1, King's number 2, and Sheppard's number 3 as far as their content quality. So when it comes to the teaching method, I have King's number 1, Sportys number 2, and Sheppard's number 3. So the reason why I've done it in this order in particular is because King's does a great job in their videos of making everything pretty much criterion based. So all the standards that you're going to be tested on in these written exams, they've broken each video down and it's searchable by those contents, and you can go back and connect to those videos from questions that they're asking, whether it's in your mock exams or just in the test banks. Each one refers back to a video that's criterion based. Sportys does much more, it's kind of like storytelling in a way, from your pre-flight all the way through flying, through your post-flight, and it does a really great job, I think, in presenting the content. However, in being able to like search it and go back and find it and having it broken down into what I would say is kind of normal lecture style, what most people are used to. Say it's a little bit more difficult to kind of track down those specific videos if you want to rewatch something. It's not very intuitive on a way to find that. Most of what you find is once you go into the questions, they refer you back to the FAR AIM and you can read through it, but it doesn't have links back to their videos. And their videos, again, like you kind of have to remember like where you saw certain pieces, and it's not always done in a manner as far as the titles where you can easily find the answers to those questions and kind of like rewatch things to really cement them back. And then of course Sheppard's doesn't have anything at all as far as videos. The only thing that they have, and you'll see this when we jump into it, is just kind of a reference back of like an explanation of why that answer is correct, right? So there's nothing else other than that, which is fine and is helpful. But again, for those of you who are much more, I would say, visual learners and do better with, maybe in-person classes like myself than you do in online classes and in just reading, then you're gonna want both audio and video to go along with the written word. And that's why I would say for most people, King's is going to be the best bet as far as their teaching method. So for student resources, I've ranked King's first and then Sporty's, and Sheppard's is kind of in a tie. So when it comes to student resources, I would say that King's is number one, really because they're so easy to get a hold of. Not that the others aren't, but it feels like for the most part you don't even really need to get a hold of anybody at King's, because like I said, in the teaching method, everything is already so laid out for you and it's so easy for you to go through the material. For me, I just found that was extremely easy. They have both apps on your phone, on your iPad, online, right? There's a lot of different ways for you to access this material, and then there's a ton of material to go with it. I mean, again, they do have all the videos, and all those videos are broken down pretty succinctly, so that way you know exactly like what that content is about. You can even search it if you wanted to by the Airman certificate standards, like number criteria, right? So and pull up all that information, where again with Sporties, it's great that they have the videos, but it's really hard to find anything with those. However, the fact that you do have those audio visuals, I feel like is really intuitive and helpful. I feel like they also do a really good job of being able to provide you with some study materials as well for you to go back to and kind of go through. And Sheppard's is like very, in Sheppard's, I would say, is very distinct in the way that they have a precise method of kind of going through and mastering the test bank, right? I think to a certain extent you are getting some learning done. However, for me, it feels a little bit rote learning, and is just kind of a parakeet back the correct answer. And maybe that's just because of my learning style. You can make your own decision when we kind of dive into it, what level of learning you think you'll get out of using just a test bank to go through. So for me, those two are kind of tied because the audio visual, as far as the student resource, is kind of difficult to use in Sporties. However, in Sheppard's, everything is very succinct and easy to follow along with. So that's why I ranked those the way that I did. So when it comes to user interface, it's really easy to see when we jump in that Sporties is the most latest and up-to-date and easiest to kind of follow along with. While King's, you can tell, is built on an older platform, and Sheppard's, it looks like it may be built on DOS, and so it takes you a little bit of time to kind of go through and maybe know exactly where everything is in each one. However, I feel like Sporties is really straightforward and intuitive as far as the ability to use it and kind of go where you want to go. You may not always know where you need to go, right? Which is why I kind of ranked it lower in the student resources. However, when you are looking around and just kind of using it, it's very intuitive to me, right? And it's definitely the sleekest and most up-to-date. Where King's you can tell from not only their videos, but also their website and the user interface, right? All those things are a little bit dated. And Sheppard's, I would say, is even more so. It just feels super dated. So that's why I kind of ranked those out the way that I did. So finally, cost. Cost is obviously a big one. I'm going to show you real quick each one of these and the tests that I was looking at taking. So let's poke around real quick and take a look. For the endorsements and what I needed for my accelerated school, these were the ones that I needed. So in order to take your private pilots, your instrument rating, and your commercial, all three of those, you have to have an endorsement in order to take. Now, depending on the school that you're going to, kind of depends on how you get that endorsement or who needs to provide you that endorsement. And the reason why I picked these three schools is because these three schools provide you endorsements for all three of these tests. There are some newer schools that do have some like private pilots and starting to do instruments, but they don't fully have all of these ready to go, and so that's why I didn't include any of them in this particular video. If you'd like to see me do something on Gold Seal or Pilot Institute, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll take a look at maybe doing a video on those as well. However, all three of these need to be done for the most part if you're looking to make a living in aviation, right? Other ones that don't need endorsements or that were kind of optional for me in my school. So the ones that don't need endorsements were the flight instructor instrument, the flight instructor airplane, and the fundamentals of instruction. And then the optional ones, this is for if you're actually looking at trying to get your Gold Seal. So the ground instructor instrument or the ground instructor advanced. You only need one of these. I don't know, because there's some varying information that's out there online. It looked at maybe at one point you needed to have both. At this point, I've looked at it and you only need to have one. I did the IGI just because it was in the same test bank with the IRA and the FII. So that's why I did that one. Although I think the AGI is very similar to, I want to say the FIA. So if you were going to do the FIA, you can kind of do the AGI along with it. Or if you're doing your instrument, you can do those. It's up to you and your preference. So down here is the actual cost, right? So if you were just going to do Sheppard's and you wanted to order the test bank for all of these, this is what it would cost you. Now you can get rid of this ground instructor advanced and save about 10 bucks. Whenever you're ordering on Sheppard's, I'll kind of show you when we go to their website. There are some discounts for ordering, kind of additional ones that are inside of that same kind of family, right? So when you're doing your instrument or your flight instructor stuff, they kind of group those instructors together. So all of those pieces kind of come together. If you wanted, right, you can do Sheppard's Plus and Sportys. So with Sheppard's Plus, they are limited to the fact that you're only going to get the three that you need endorsements for. So your private pilots, your instrument, and your commercial are all included. However, you'll need to, if you want test banks and additional questions to prep for these other tests, you are going to need to, in my opinion, go ahead and get some from Sheppard's as well. And those will provide you the test banks for these additional tests. So that's going to cost about $205. Now that is assuming that it only takes you 1 month in order to complete your Sportys training. So Sportys Plus, it's nice because it's $60 a month right now currently, and you get access to all of their materials. There's a lot of other materials that you get access to besides these three tests. There's also additional courses like landing tailwheel planes or the G1000 avionics, and if you're into that kind of stuff, that's great. However, we're just looking at the written test today. So you're only going to get those three courses, so that's the only value that you're getting out of it. You can order these. I think each one of them is around $300, which is very similar to King's Ground School. So King's is about $300 for each one of these courses. Currently, they do have a career pilot bundle that is $14.95. So that's going to get you all the testing material for all of these, plus additional ones, just like what you would see in Sporties, and that's lifetime access, right? So with Sheppard's, I think it's only good for a year. You have access to those for 1 year, and then if you would need it again, you would need to pay for it again. And then Sporties Plus, like I said, gives you access at a monthly rate of $60 a month. You'd also need to purchase the Sporty programs for these tests if you wanted to take any of those. And then Kings is a lifetime access, and they're constantly updating. And so if you ever want to go back to any of those materials, it may be helpful. It's nice to have a lot of those materials. However, you may not always need those. And so the fact that you get lifetime access with Kings is great. However, it does come at a much higher cost. They also have an advanced bundle, which includes the ATP for another $500. So if you're looking to like have lifetime access for every test that you'll ever need to take and just about everything that you'll ever need, then maybe you'll be willing to spend the $2,000 on the King's Ground School. However, when it comes to cost, I think Sheppard's is probably the best as far as cost is concerned, because you get that access for a full year and it's a little bit cheaper, with Sporties coming in right in behind it at $60 a month, or you can get the year-long access for $400. But you are gonna need to supplement it with some of Sheppard Air's test supplements, so that way you have the test banks for those tests that aren't covered in Sporties. And then Kings is gonna provide you everything, full lifetime access. However, it is coming at a much higher cost. So that's the 5 criteria that I look at when I'm breaking these down. That's kind of how I would rank each one. And so depending on your feeling and which one that you value more, you can kind of slide the scales around to figure out which one is best for you in that situation. So now let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the user interface and how everything is set up so you can make your own decisions and score each one yourself. So let's start off with King's Ground School. So here's the test that I'm looking at and all the prep courses that I'm currently doing through King's. You can see as you get in and you get into your iLearn, it's a really quick and simple way to just go ahead and take a look at each one. Gives you nice enroll dates and completions and things like that. So let's go ahead, we'll jump into, I think the instrument one is the one that I kind of broke down pretty well for you guys. So you'll start off with a little session. It kind of shows you each one, and this is what I was talking about, their breakdown. I feel like they do a really good job of breaking down each one of these, courses into bite-sized chunks and kind of scale it all down for you. So if you're looking at, I think the one that I broke down was weather. So when you click on weather, you can see all these different like subcategories inside of weather. Then you'll click on here and then you'll see what makes weather. And then there's all your lessons, shows you your completion date. And then you actually click here to then start the video. So each one of these videos, will play through, and then you have these sets of questions that will be at the end. So for example, this is the primary cause of all changes in the Earth's weather is. Then you get your selections. I know that that is going to be the variation of solar energy over the Earth's regions. So when I click that, get a happy little ding with a fun little plane here. Again, you get your Airman Certificate Standards code. So this is the code that I was talking about. These are the same codes that you'll get back on your test, right? So once you take your test, anything that you've missed, they'll have these codes here for you. And so it's really nice. This is one of the things that I love about King's is my ability to go back and I can watch that content again to kind of refresh myself and get myself more prepared if I know that I'm struggling in that. Also kind of breaks it down and tells you exactly what it is. Down here, you can see it's broken down. This will be the previous question. This one's the next question. This one here will take you into if there is a figure, right? So sometimes you have like an approach chart or other, visuals that will go along with the questions is here. This one right here will take you to the video associated with that. So right now it's really easy because I just finished watching the video, so I know which video that's associated with. But if I'm taking a mock exam and I don't know where this question was located or I want to watch the video again, this is great that I can just click here and that'll take me right back to that content. This is going to give me the explanation So each one of these courses provides this. So this will, literally spell it out for me if I don't want to go back and watch the whole video of why this is the correct one and why each one is incorrect. I'll then can mark these questions and go back and search by marked questions. This will let me retake the question, and then this is also going to give me an overall report card. So the reason why it says 100 here is not because I'm crazy smart or anything, but in order to get credit for this, right? Let's say that I picked the wrong one, gives me a bad one, shows me the incorrect answer and which one is correct. So then I would retake, and you can see my current score is now a 99.9, but I would redo this to select the right one, right, in order to move on. So the menu will take you all the way back to this fun times. So you get that noise whenever you've actually completed the lesson. If I didn't, so let's say that I left this one wrong, right? I think maybe because I've previously done this one correctly, it may still give me credit, but whenever you click out, here you go. So you have one unanswered or incorrectly answered question in the lesson, right? It won't show as complete until you've answered all of them correctly. So if you want to go back, you'll click yes, and that's why you click on that and your score becomes 100. So that's why everything's 100. It's not because I'm super smart or anything like that, right? The save and exit will take you all the way back to the original home screen. So, and it saves all your progress. Again, you can go through any of these and kind of see where you are, when you worked on those things, how long it took you, right, to get through each one of those. So here's a breakdown of just that same weather section that I just showed you. So here's the overall section, right? And then what makes up weather. So we just saw the air masses and stability. There was 5 questions after a 5-minute video, right? You can take a look at all of these to get an idea of the amount of videos, the time that it takes, the number of questions that you kind of end up with. So just on this one section of weather, you end up answering 191 questions in total. I don't know exactly how long the time marker is on this, right? You can kind of calculate that yourself if you're interested, but you can see that just because, a video is super long, like this one's 19 minutes, there's only 5 questions. This one was only 3 minutes, but had 12 questions. So it doesn't always necessarily correlate with the video time, with the amount of questions. It just kind of depends on the amount of questions that they have within their test bank that they kind of run you through. So some of the times when you're going through, you'll notice they're asking you kind of the same question in 3 different styles of questions. So just kind of depends on how the FAA test bank is done. But here you can see that each one has several different videos within, those larger contexts, and every single one of those is broken down like that. So, aircraft performance, you can see all 4 of these, right, where these 4 bold ones here, and then they break down, into additional videos there, which all have questions at the end. So that's how King's is broken down. Sporty's is broken down the same way. But before we jump into that, I want to real quickly show you how their practice exams are broken down. So this one is for the commercial pilots test. For your practice exams, you've got 3 different ones. You have to score a 70 or better on 3 different practice exams before you can get your endorsement or course completion, depending on which test that you're studying for. You can do as many of these random ones as you want as well. Once you get done with all your videos, you can also go into the question reviews here. So you can answer questions. You can pick if there's a certain topic that you need help with. Again, here's those codes. Like if you keep track of your codes and things like that to break all of these down, I mean, there's just a ton of them. You can also look at any of your unanswered questions, one that you've answered incorrectly. You're marked questions. So when you're going through and you're tabbing each one of those, and all the questions that you've ever missed. So even if you've like answered them correctly again, then they'll bring those up. You can also do all of your categories instead of just a specific category, or individual question numbers if you know what they are. So those individual question numbers would be found right here, right? So 5211 would be an individual question number. You can keep track of it that way. Up here by the codes, you can mark them. There's a lot of different ways to get back to the content that you need to review, which is one of the reasons why I like King so much. And then they also have on the companion app on your iPhone kind of a flashcard where it just gives you those correct answers. You can either quiz yourself, or it's a really quick and rapid way. In Sheppard Air, they do a very similar type of learning style as far as like the just looking at correct answers, but you can kind of break it down that way. So there's the overview for Kings. In my opinion, this one does a really good job of being able to kind of search through and find specific content that you're looking for very quickly. So now let's take a look at Sportys. Sportys, like I said, has the nicest user interface. Here's all the different ones that you're looking at. So here's the ones that you're going to get access to in the Sportys Plus. So this is their monthly or yearly subscription model. So you've got your private pilots, your instrument, and your commercial. You also have a refresher course. And then if you're just looking for your recreational or your sport pilot's license, that's available too. And then there's just a quick getting to know everything. So then they also have all these workshops as well. So these are all different ones, but they're not really going to help you with any of the particular tests per se, but they are nice to have as far as like additional learning, as well as you've got some getting current in case you're a rusty pilot and you're getting all of your licenses back. You've got a certain amount of time that you have to be able to go back and do refreshers and keep your license current. They also have some aircraft transitions. So if you're looking at your multi-engines or your tail wheels, any of that kind of stuff. They even have stuff for drones, avionics, and Garmin, which you'll find is, especially in the glass cockpits, these are some of the most popular ones for you to be able to take a look at. So lots of content that's available, but really, you're only looking at 3 tests that you need in order to be able to pass. So let's go ahead and launch one of these courses. So I did use this course for my private pilot's license. Again, it's very easy and intuitive as far as what I think. So when you go into your video training, it breaks it down. You can see here it breaks it down in kind of a similar way that we saw the breakdown in Kings. However, I don't think it does a very good job of labeling things by content again. So whenever you're going in, you'll start out here getting to learn when you should fly, right? They have little quizzes at the end of some of their videos, not all of their videos. In Kings, you have a quiz after every video. Here, you're only going to have quizzes after some videos. So they have it all laid out, and you can kind of see. We'll take a look real quick. So here's the video. It's got some sectional notes here, so it does kind of break things down. You've got the transcript, which maybe is nice for you if you like reading those type of things. They do have related content, so other videos that you can view. And here's their review quiz, so you can take these at the end of each one. So during the summer months, what situation might cause a delay in the lesson? So visibility of 3-5 miles, the presence of local thunderstorm, high atmospheric pressure. So the presence of thunderstorms is going to cause a delay in your learning, right? So, and you can go through each one of these, and it's set up, like I said, I feel like it's pretty intuitive and the ability to kind of get around. They also have some optional supplement training. And then let's take a look at their test prep. So here you can start new study sections, very similar to the way that you got into Kings and you clicked on their kind of study area. You'll open up a guide, kind of opens up another window here. and this will break down kind of how they suggest to go through everything. So picking the course, doing those videos, and then doing the test prep, going through each one of the categories, marking the questions that you get incorrect, reviewing them, right? Taking your practice tests, doing some flashcard work, right? All of those things. So you'll start a new study session right here. Again, you can pick your specific ones, random questions, smart study, which is like whenever you're taking some mock tests, it'll show you like where you're kind of quiz you on the things that you've done the weakest. March questions, incorrections, ones you've never seen, right? So you can break all of these down into individual ones. I also like the fact that you can kind of see all the different questions here, although again, you can go question mode or flashcard mode, right? Whichever one that you want. But whenever you're selecting these, I'll just kind of show you. So once you're here, and you decide that you want to answer, I'm not even going to read this, I'm just going to select one. So that way you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So here's how they explain things. So they give you the FAR or the aim wherever this material is located. However, it doesn't really locate you back to the video, right? Which is kind of big for me. One of the reasons why I would go with Sportys over Sheppard's is the fact that I'm getting that visual information. So to not have this readily available, it's nice that the FAR is here and you get access to it, and it's really simple to kind of go through. So it brings up 125, which is the one that I need. So, and it tells you the color signals, and it breaks it all down into what those things mean. Same thing, it opens up the entire chapter for the aim. Doesn't really break it down any better for you than that, so you'll have to go through the aim and find it. So if it gives you an aim, that's kind of tough, like, because you're going to have to go through. I mean, this is a bunch of pages here for chapter 4, right? Like, to go through. So not a big fan of their explanation process and how they do that. You can mark it. You can also just do show only the correct answer when you're going through these. So again, it's nice and intuitive. I would say that they really do a great job of giving you this information in a very visual way when you're going through it. They do a good job at putting more resources at your fingertips, so you can see you've got like the FAR and the aim and all these other guides and things like that. These other books that I covered in another video as far as your supply list of what you need for school. So all this digital content's right here at your fingertips. However, it's not organized in the best way, in my opinion. Another thing you want to know as well is that Sportys requires you to get an 80 on your practice test, although they only require 2 practice tests, as you can see from this private pilot. So, and you can retake those until you get your 80. But that is a difference between Kings and Sportys as far as the endorsements and what it takes to get that endorsement and completion of the course when you're doing your mock tests. So let's take a look now at our last one, Sheppard Air. Before we do that, I'd really appreciate it if you're getting some value out of this to hit that like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and other people just like you and me find this video so we can help them too. So over here at Sheppard Air, this is the free trial. You can see that they've got the PC, the Mac, and the iPad. You can download it onto any of those. And just to show you real quickly kind of the way that their format is, here's how you would go through and pay for any of these. Again, if you're getting more than one of these in a particular area, sometimes there are some discounts. So if you're doing your commercial, it's a $50 flat fee. However, if you're doing your IRA and your FII, right, if you enroll in any one of the courses for $50, then each additional one in the group is $10 each. So you can get the IRA, the FII, and the IGI. So $50 there, 10 for that one, and 10 for that one. So that's $70 for all of your instrument stuff that you're doing. So it's nice to have that discount just to make you aware. You do have to call in, right? There's no like online purchasing available. So you would call them in order to be able to get access to that. So once you do that, and you've picked out your courses, this will be the screen that you will ultimately end up getting once you download everything. So they do have a very specific method that they want you to use when you are using the study guide. Remember, there are no videos, there's no like pre-course materials or anything. Basically what you're doing is just going through this test bank of questions, which they have a ton of questions in each one of these, and going through their study material or going through their testing material in a very programmed way. So the first thing that you'll do is you're going to get, you want to select sequence A with the default answer sequence. You'll hit study questions, and then you're going to select one of these categories. So once you select one of the categories, you're going to do show answers only. So we'll just do a shorter one so we can kind of go through. But you would do this for each one of these categories to start. And this is the only time you're going to do, it'll even tell you a correct answers only or just for step 1. So there's 5 steps to it, but step 1, you're going to do the correct answers only. And so you'll read the question: on which radial is the aircraft is indicated on nav 1. And it says radial 345. There are memory aids that comes with the full package if you need that, but to click on the figure, that will then show you, okay, nav 1, right, on which radial is it located, so you can tell by this and how many degrees you are off here. That's where it's at. You can click on your explanation, and it says apparently we're trying to intercept the 350, right? You're 2.5 degrees off, which is about 5 degrees, so that puts you on the 345 radial. You can read all of that to get there. And then you can click next, pops up your next figure, right? And you go through and basically look at the answers for each one of these. You can get your explanations for each one until you are done. So once you get through and you have no more remaining, you can click out of this and it'll pop you right back to the beginning. Then you'll do that for each category. So you would hit your study questions and you'd go through that whole thing again. So once you get through step 1 and you've gone through all the categories, now you're going to go through and you're going to do sequence B, and then you're going to do random answer choices, okay? Then you're going to do the study questions. You'll select whichever category you're doing, and this time you want all the answer choices as you go through. So you're going to answer these the best that you can, which is the correct signal for the minimum steady flight or stalling in the landing configuration, right? Select your answer, right? And see if it's correct or not, okay? So once you've done that, you're not gonna mark any of these if you're wrong, okay? That's a big piece of this. You don't mark any of these if you're wrong. You're just going through and checking your answers to each one and just click this answer button. You can still click on the explanation button and check out the explanations if you'd like as you're going through, okay? And you're gonna do that for each one of the categories again, right? So you're doing this by categories, okay? So once you've done that for each one, you're doing sequence B and random answers showing all the answer choices now. Once you've done that for each one, now you're gonna do all of the categories combined, all of the answer choices still, and go through each one, checking your answers. This time, if you are guessing or incorrect, you want to hit the mark button. So right down here is the mark button. So let's say we're not sure about that one. Okay, we're looking at the next one, and we thought it was VSO, right? That's great. Now we think it's A. That's right. Okay, let's say it's now B. Oh, there's another one that I guessed at or got wrong. I'll mark that one again, okay? You do that for all the questions. Now that you're done with those, right, and you've gone through it at least twice, you need to do that 2 times. So you'll go through the categories again. Don't worry about which ones are marked or unmarked, right? You're only looking to mark additional questions if you're guessing or you got them incorrect. Now you'll go down here to number 4, which is where you're going to have the marked ones. So now you look at the marked questions and you're just gonna go through the ones that you've marked. So you can see I've only got 1 more remaining. So I only marked 2, so there's only 2 to go through, okay? Now I remember, oh yeah, that was parallel. oh yeah, this one was the 1600 RVR, right? Or whatever it is. Once I go through that, feel comfortable with my mark questions, now I take my practice test. I can't show you the practice test because this is a trial, so you'll have to do it that way. But once you do your trial, if you've gotten a 90% or higher, they say go ahead and take your test immediately. If you've got anything less than a 90%, what you're going to do is go all the way back to step 3 again. So now step 3, right, was selecting sequence B, all of your answers, go to the studies, and doing all of the categories with all of your answer choices again, clicking OK, and going through everything at least twice, right? So now you're going through everything at least twice again, marked any of those questions, then you do your marked questions again, going through all of those, and then you do your practice test again until you're getting a 90. Now they're saying if this takes you multiple times and you're not able to get to a 90, to call them. Their technical support line is right here, all right? So you're more than welcome to reach out to them for any additional help. Now, I do like this. It's a little complicated at first, right? When you're looking at this, again, the user interface isn't great. The fact that I'm having to click on all these different things instead of just having a step 1, step 2 button, right? That already has those kind of things already programmed into it. You do kind of have to remember the sequence, right? Of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So that part of Sheppard's Air is, you know, there's a bit of a learning curve as far as the user interface. It's not great. Everything feels, like I said, almost like you're going back to DOS or something. So not terrible, not great. Once you go through, and if you do hit your 5th step, you can clear all your marked. Are you sure you want to erase all of them, right? So you can start off with a fresh no marked list and go back through, you know, your step 3 again. So I would say this is probably the fastest way to get prepared. I don't know, and probably the most cost-effective way to get prepared. And from what I've heard, their test bank is probably the best. It's really, to me, and they say that it's not just like rote memory, but for me, this feels a lot like just kind of parakeeting back answers. They do have the explanations that you can go through, but it feels like you're really just doing, you're only preparing for the test. You're not really preparing to become a pilot necessarily, because of the material. Now, you may feel totally different, and I know other people who have just used Sheppard's and they don't feel that way at all. They feel like they know the material just as well as anybody else. But just outside looking in, as far as just overall testing, I would say this is probably the best for testing, probably the most cost effective and time effective for preparing you for a test. However, I don't know if it's really preparing you long term for being a pilot, and if this is really the best resource for that. But if you've got an in-face person and you're doing a lot of those trainings, maybe this is the best route for you as far as just the written exams are concerned. But for me, I would say this is the one that I like the least as far as preparing you to be a pilot, actually flying the plane and really understanding and synthesizing, can't even say it, but really understanding and being able to take this learning from just answering a question to that next higher level of understanding, applying it, and really being able to take multiple pieces of information and making new information and decisions with that, right? I would say this is the least effective at doing that, but probably the most effective at getting you a high score if that's all you're really concerned about when you're looking at your online ground school. So now, what's my ultimate opinion? So my favorite out of all of these is King's. I really like King's Ground School for a couple of different reasons. So first off, I would just say the breakdown of all the course material is probably the best. The amount of resources that you're getting, you have them for life. They're constantly updating them every month. For me, that makes it my favorite. Now, it is obviously the most expensive as well. And you've kind of got to decide a little bit on your time frame, how long you need this stuff for, I think is a big consideration in this. If you're in a fast kind of accelerated program like I am, or you're looking to just get all this stuff knocked out as far as your writtens in a month or two, maybe this isn't for you. But if you could probably get it done cheaper by doing just Sportys and getting your endorsements with them, and then using Sheppard's to supplement your, test instructions and all the other ones, and just, you can probably get prepped and done really quick. I think legitimately with Sportys Plus and Sheppard's, you could get all 7 or 8 tests done in a month or two if you have the time to dedicate yourself to it. If you are only flying, a couple of times a week, or maybe even a couple of times a month, then some of those costs may add up. You want to purchase them maybe kind of as you go. Maybe you get Sportys Plus for a year for $400, and then right before you're preparing to take the test, you get the Sheppard's, although because they're only good for a year. So maybe you can't get the discounts associated with getting another one, because you got to get them at the same time. So, maybe over the long term, Kings does end up, if you're going at a much slower pace, makes some financial sense in the fact that you don't have to worry about your timelines. You have all the material forever, right? And you're getting all of the courses together for one price instead of trying to piece it together. But if you kind of know your plan, if you know it's going to take you less than a year, then maybe doing Sportys or doing Sheppard's is maybe a better value for you. But for me, being very, honestly, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I really need to get in an airplane and fly around some and mess with the dials and really kind of immerse myself in the environment for the most part. But if I can't do that, then having the audio visual, presentation of Kings, some of their videos are a little old. They're not super old, but they've been doing it since, I think they were mailing out VHS tapes back in the 80s. So they've got a long track record of being very successful in preparing people for not only their tests, but for their ground schools and check rides and things like that. So I really think ultimately for me, this is the route that I would go. However, if you're really worried about the user interface and you want the latest and greatest feel on that, then Sportys is going to be much better for you. If all you're worried about is just test prep and making the highest score that you can at the cheapest cost that you possibly can, then Sheppard's, I think, is for you. So everybody's going to have their own wheelhouse. But for me personally, Kings is the one that I would do and recommend to others, especially if you're not as concerned about the cost. You always have to be concerned about cost, but if you're going at a slower rate and you're going to be piecing out things over time, I think Sheppard's and Sportys is going to end up costing you more than if you're on a very accelerated path. Kings becomes much more financially competitive at that point, if that's what you're doing. So again, if you're going real quick, you can get a lot of this stuff done, Sheppard's for $200, Sportys in 1 month, right? Along with Sheppard's about $205 compared to Kings at $1,500. I mean, that's a huge price difference, but so is the amount of time that you get access for this stuff. Every month is going to be another $60 for Sportys Plus, or you can do a year-long subscription for $400, and then supplementing in these Sportys, that's another $140. So it's more like $600 or so, and that'll get you a year-long access to both Sportys and all of Sheppard Air's databases for these programs. So it's about half the cost, right, of doing Kings. But Kings is going to get you even more stuff than what I've shown here. Maybe I can pop over and show you real quick So hopping over here to come and show you what those bundles look like, it looks like their bundles have actually gone up. And so now it's $2,000 for their career pilot. And then if you wanted the airline, which also includes the ATP, that's now $2,500. So it looks like they've raised their prices by about $500. So now it's even more kind of costly. However, you can see that you get your private pilots, your instrument, your commercial, your flight instructor, your FOI, double I, multi-engine, and then all these different ones, if you're flying different type ratings and things like that. They've got a ton of other stuff that's also included inside of this training package. And then if you wanted the complete airline bundle, this one again also includes like the ATP training, I know is involved in this, as well as a couple of others. So, you know, some interview preps and things like that. So it is vastly more expensive, right, than what you're getting, but you're also getting this for life. You will always have access to this. You can do these online either on your phone, tablet, or on the computer. So you've got access to them everywhere you would want access to these. So if you've made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you've made it this far, then you've probably delved deep into the subject yourself. I'd love to get your feedback on this video, and you guys tell me, what do you think about my rankings? How do you think my views line up with your own personal views on each one of these now that you've seen them? Let me know in the comments below. And until I see you in the next video, keep the grass off your wingtips.